Hello everyone, welcome to Frightful Whispers. I'm here to guide you into the shadows tonight. I know you're using this video to unwind and drift off to sleep. So, before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Where are you watching from? And what time is it for you? Now, get cozy, relax, and let the whispers of the night take over. It started on a quiet Wednesday evening, or so I thought. I had just come home after a grueling day at work, and to be honest, I was too tired to deal with anything. My feet ached from running around the office all day, my mind was exhausted from back-to-back meetings, and the last thing I wanted to do was go out or deal with anyone. My apartment was warm, dimly lit, and, for the first time in what felt like forever, utterly peaceful. The kind of peace that wraps around you, that makes you believe the world outside is just a distant hum. I collapsed onto my couch, the weight of the day still hanging on my shoulders like a thick fog. I picked up my phone, thinking I'd just check a few messages, maybe scroll through social media, and forget about the world for a while. But the moment I unlocked the screen, I saw it. An unknown number. It wasn't unusual. Wrong numbers happened, and telemarketers were relentless. But something about this one made me hesitate. My thumb hovered over the screen for just a moment too long, as if my mind was trying to tell me something I didn't want to hear. I pressed answer, and the first thing I heard wasn't a voice I recognized. It wasn't a telemarketer's scripted spiel. It wasn't a wrong number. No, it was something far stranger. It was my voice. Emma. I froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. That voice, it sounded like mine, but something was off. It was as though it was coming from a distance, or maybe from somewhere deeper than I could even comprehend. I could hear myself, my own voice, whispering my name, and yet it wasn't me. It was as if my voice had been twisted, stretched across some sort of unseen, unknowable space. My heart thudded in my chest, my skin suddenly cold. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming, or if I had somehow fallen into some strange nightmare, but I had to answer. I had to know who was on the other end of this call. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice trembling despite myself. There was no answer, just a long, suffocating silence. And then, again, the voice came through, more insistent this time. "The accident." My stomach turned. I felt something heavy lodge itself in my throat. My mind scrambled for logic, for something, anything, that made sense. Who could possibly know about that? That wasn't a conversation I'd had with anyone recently, not a memory I'd shared with anyone. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and my chest felt like it was being squeezed. "It's coming," the voice said, as calm as if it were giving me directions. "The accident. It's coming." I felt as though I'd just been plunged into freezing water. My brain screamed at me to hang up, but I couldn't. I couldn't. Every part of me knew I should end this call, hang up, and dismiss it as some sick prank. But I couldn't move. I felt rooted to the spot. "Who are you?" I demanded, voice shaking more now, but still trying to sound firm. "What do you want from me?" And then the voice spoke again. The words were slow, deliberate, as if they carried some dreadful weight. "You need to stop what you're doing, right now, Emma, before it's too late." My grip on the phone tightened, fingers white with pressure. My mind screamed at me to disconnect the call, but there was something in the tone of that voice, a sense of urgency, that made my pulse race. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just a prank. This wasn't a telemarketer. No, this was something far worse. "There's a crash," the voice continued. "It's waiting for you. If you don't change your path, you'll be in it." I could barely breathe. My mouth felt dry. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might burst from my chest. "What are you talking about?" I managed to whisper, my thoughts scattered. What crash? I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I had to get away from this conversation. But then the voice, calm and steady, spoke again. "Tomorrow," it said, "you'll be on the highway. You'll be in the accident if you don't change your path. You have to change your route. Don't take the usual road. Don't go the way you always do." The words drilled into my skull, each one landing with an eerie finality. How could it know? How could it know the exact road I always take? The very route I had driven for years without a second thought. It was impossible. There was no way anyone, anything, could know that. I didn't believe in fate. I didn't believe in any of this supernatural nonsense. But standing there, listening to my own voice, speaking these words, I felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open. "Please," I whispered, my voice so small now. "Who are you?" The line went silent. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, to run out into the street and shake myself out of this nightmare, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The seconds stretched on, and then finally the call ended. No sound, no warning, just a click as the line went dead. I sat there, still holding the phone, my mind spinning, my heart pounding in my chest. Was that really me? How could that be me? It was impossible. It had to be a joke, a glitch, something. But it didn't feel like a joke. It didn't feel like a glitch. It felt like a warning. A warning from what? I sat there in the dark, alone in my apartment, with nothing but the soft sound of rain and my own racing thoughts to keep me company. It was then that I realized I wasn't alone. That voice, it wasn't just a prank. It wasn't just a freak accident of some malfunctioning phone. No, it was something else. Something I couldn't quite explain, but I knew it was real. And then, the phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I should have ignored it. I should have shut it off, turned the volume down, never looked at it again. But my hand reached out almost involuntarily to answer. Because somehow, deep inside, I knew the worst was yet to come. It's been a few days since that first call, and I wish I could tell you that I've moved on, that I've found some way to convince myself it was all just a mistake. But I haven't. I can't. The memory of it lingers like a shadow that refuses to leave, and the room feels colder every time I think back to that moment when I heard my own voice, but not really mine. I should have dismissed it. I wanted to dismiss it. But something inside me knew that it wasn't just some weird glitch, some sick prank. No, it was real. So, here I am, sitting in the same place, in the same quiet apartment, with my phone in my hand once again. I thought I was alone, that I could rest for just a moment, but it seems fate had other plans. It was another night. I'd just gotten home from work, my shoulders heavy with the weight of the day. Everything felt too normal, too mundane. But that was the thing about normal. It never lasts. I'd barely sat down when the phone buzzed. Unknown number. That alone should have been enough for me to ignore it. I should have let it go to voicemail. But I didn't. My hand moved almost against my will, and before I knew it, I'd pressed accept. "Hello?" I said, trying to sound confident, trying to push the unease that had settled in my stomach. But the moment the words left my mouth, I knew something was off. The line crackled for a moment, and then came that voice. My voice, but distorted, twisted, darker. "Emma." I froze. It wasn't the same as the first time. This time, the voice wasn't gentle. It wasn't trying to soothe me. No, it felt like it was reaching into my chest, like it was pulling me into something deeper. It was me, but it wasn't. The calm that I had felt before was gone. Now, it was almost angry. "Who is this?" I demanded, though I could barely force the words out. My heart was pounding, my grip tightening around the phone. I could feel the cold creeping up my spine, and for a moment I almost wanted to hang up. But then the voice came again. "You didn't listen, did you?" I froze. My blood ran cold, my breath caught in my throat. It remembers. It remembers what I didn't do, what I ignored. The voice, my voice, didn't wait for me to answer. It just kept going, cutting through me like a knife. "You're still ignoring me, aren't you?" The words came faster now, more urgent. "You think you can just ignore this, move on with your life, pretend it's all in your head? But it's not, Emma, it's not. The accident, it's going to happen again. And this time, you won't be so lucky." I opened my mouth to speak, but the words stuck. I couldn't find the right ones. How could I respond to something like this? The weight of the words pressed against my chest. My head was spinning, and all I could do was listen. "What do you mean?" I finally managed to whisper, though my voice barely carried the words. I felt like I was being dragged under, drowning in the sheer reality of it. "What accident? How do you know about that?" The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. "The crash. Your crash," it said, each word slow and deliberate. "You think you've been lucky, but this time, luck won't save you. You're still going to be on that highway, you're still going to take that road like you always do." I couldn't breathe. How could it know? How could it know? The highway. The road I've driven every day for years without a second thought. The same damn road where I always thought I was safe. The same place I'd always thought was familiar. And then it hit me. The cold realization. The voice, my voice, had warned me before, and I hadn't listened. And now it was too late. "No," I whispered, shaking my head, my thoughts spiraling. "This isn't real. This isn't happening." I tried to convince myself, but the fear clawed its way back into my chest. But the voice didn't stop. "You won't believe me, will you?" it said. And this time, there was no kindness in it. No patience. Just a bitter, resigned tone. "You never believe until it's too late. But I'm telling you, Emma, tomorrow, 8:15 a.m., you'll be on that road, and you'll crash if you don't change your path. You have to stop. Don't take that road tomorrow. Don't drive the way you always do." It felt like the world was spinning, the room closing in on me, pressing me down. How could it know? How could it know? I wanted to scream. I wanted to break free of this madness. But the fear, it wouldn't let me. I could feel it inside me, twisting around my insides, tightening like a noose. "I don't know what to do," I whispered, my voice barely audible, my breath shallow, heart racing. "How do I stop this? How do I change it?" But the voice was already quieter now, softer, almost as if it were slipping away. "Change your route. Don't take the highway. Do anything else, but don't go the way you always do." I clutched the phone so tightly I thought I might crush it. I couldn't let go. I couldn't leave this moment. I needed answers. I needed to understand what was happening to me. But before I could say another word, the line went dead. I sat there in the dead silence, staring at the phone in my hand, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The world felt unreal. The room felt unreal. I couldn't move. I couldn't think straight. Was this real? Was any of this real? The questions echoed through my mind, but no answers came. I should have hung up. I should have listened and done something, anything, to protect myself. But it was too late now. The silence around me was suffocating. The apartment that once felt safe now felt like a cage. And as I sat there, paralyzed by fear, the phone buzzed again. I didn't want to pick it up. I really didn't. But, just like before, my hand moved on its own. It was like the phone was pulling me into something deeper, something I couldn't escape. I answered, and I heard that voice again, but this time it wasn't just mine. "Emma, you need to listen." The voice was calm, cold, and this time it wasn't me on the other end. I've tried to shake it off. Really, I have. But no matter how hard I try to push the memory out of my mind, it always finds a way to crawl back in. That first call, the second, now the third. They keep coming, one after another, like some kind of twisted reminder that I'm not in control of my own life anymore. I tried to go on as if everything was normal. Work, dinners alone in my apartment, quiet evenings with a book or a movie. But I was always looking over my shoulder, always feeling like there was something lurking. The calls, they never stopped. But this time, it was different. It was a Friday evening when I picked up the phone again. I should have known better. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. The stillness in the apartment had become too much. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the rain tapping lightly against the window, it all felt wrong. It was like the world outside was holding its breath, waiting for something. And then, that buzz. The phone on the table lit up, and my stomach dropped. Unknown number. For a moment I just stared at it, knowing deep down I shouldn't answer. Every part of me told me not to. But I did anyway. "Hello?" I said, my voice quieter than I intended, my hands trembling. I could already feel the weight of whatever was about to happen, hanging in the air like an impending storm. The static crackled on the other end, and then came the voice. "Emma." I froze. It wasn't just the words that made my skin crawl, it was the tone. It sounded like me, yes, but it was wrong. It was darker, angrier. I had heard it before, and yet I didn't want to hear it again. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, to run out of the apartment, to escape whatever this was. But I couldn't. My hand, as if possessed, kept the phone glued to my ear. "Who is this?" I demanded, my voice shaky but forced, trying to sound stronger than I felt. But the voice, my voice, just sighed, a slow, almost sorrowful sound. It was like it pitied me. "You didn't listen to me," it said, each word slow and deliberate, dripping with frustration. "You think you can ignore me, pretend like you're in control. But you're not, Emma. You've run out of time." My heart pounded in my chest. My fingers gripped the phone tighter, knuckles white with the pressure, but I couldn't make my body move. Every instinct told me to hang up, to end the call, to get out of this nightmare, but my body refused. My mind, too, seemed paralyzed. "I don't understand. What do you want from me?" I whispered, the words almost escaping me before I realized what I was saying. I didn't know what to do or who to believe. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. The voice didn't answer right away. There was a pause, an unsettling, suffocating silence that stretched on for too long. I felt like I was drowning in it. The room around me seemed to close in, the shadows in the corners growing longer, darker, as if they were watching me, waiting for something to happen. And then it spoke again. "The accident," it said, its tone sharp, like a blade slicing through the silence. "It's going to happen again, Emma. And this time, you won't be so lucky." I froze, the blood in my veins turning to ice. I could feel my breath catch in my throat, my body turning cold as the words settled in. The accident. How did it know about that? How could it possibly know? It was impossible. It was just a twisted coincidence, a sick joke, right? "No," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "No, I'm not going to—" "You're going to be on that road tomorrow? You're going to drive the same way, like you always do. and it will happen again. The voice was clearer now, more forceful. It felt like it was pushing through the phone, pressing into my ears, into my mind. I wanted to scream, to beg for it to stop, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed. "It's too late, Emma. You've already made the choice." My hands started to shake, and I gripped the phone so hard I thought I might break it. "What are you talking about? I don't understand. How do you know?" I was desperate now, my voice rising, my heart slamming against my ribs. But the voice on the other end wasn't shaken. It wasn't even worried. It was as if it had known this would happen all along. "I'm you, Emma," it said. "I'm your future. I've seen it. I've lived it. And now I'm here, trying to help you. But you won't listen. You never do. You think you can ignore the warnings, but you can't. Tomorrow, you'll see." A cold shiver ran down my spine, the room feeling smaller now, more suffocating. I wanted to scream, to argue, to do something, but I couldn't. The words locked in my throat. The voice continued, its tone softer, almost sorrowful, but there was a coldness in it that sent chills through my entire body. "You won't be ready. You'll drive that road again, and you won't even see it coming. You'll be in the crash, Emma. You'll be in the wreckage, and you won't survive this time." I wanted to ask more. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but all I could do was listen. The room felt like it was spinning. My heart was pounding, so loud in my ears that I could hardly hear the voice anymore. The fear, the confusion, everything. It was too much. "You have to listen," it said, more urgently now. "You have to change your path. You can't go back to that road. Don't take the highway tomorrow. Don't do it. If you don't, it'll be too late." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I couldn't even speak. The air in the room was suffocating. The words were still ringing in my ears, repeating over and over again, like some broken record. The weight of them pressed down on me, pulling me deeper into the nightmare. "I don't know what to do," I whispered, barely able to breathe. "I don't know how to stop it. How can I stop it?" But there was no answer. Just silence. The phone slipped from my hand as I stared at the screen, heart racing, chest tight with fear. It felt like the room had been stolen from me, like I was no longer in control of anything. My body was frozen, unable to move, unable to think. All I could do was sit there, my mind screaming in the emptiness of the room. And then, just as I thought I might pass out from the weight of it all, the line went dead. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat, but everything else, the world outside, the shadows in the corners of the room, it all felt far away, too far, too distant, like it wasn't real. I wasn't real. I should have hung up. I should have listened. But now it was too late. The warning had been given, and I had ignored it. I can still hear the faint hum of the engine, the thrum of the tires on the wet pavement. It's almost like my mind wants to block everything out, to pretend that I didn't hear the voice, didn't feel the cold weight of its words wrapping around me. But it's impossible. It haunts me now, every moment, every breath I take. I can't escape it. The days after that second call dragged on in a blur. I tried to ignore it, tried to pretend like I wasn't hearing things, like the warnings weren't real. But deep down, I knew they were. I could feel it, the tension, the unease that clung to every waking second. The voice had been so clear, so certain. I couldn't just shake it off. "You have to change your path," it had told me. "You won't survive the crash if you don't." But I didn't listen. I didn't believe it. I thought it was just some twisted prank. A weird glitch, maybe, something that I could control. I had to be in control. I needed to be. I wasn't about to let some thing dictate my life. So, I did what I always did. I drove the same way, took the same exit, headed toward the same stretch of highway, the familiar stretch of asphalt that had been a part of my life for as long as I could remember. I could hear the rain, faintly tapping against the windshield, but it was soothing. It should have been soothing. There was nothing wrong. The road was clear. There was no sign of what was about to come, just the soft swish of the wipers clearing the mist from the glass. The world outside was hazy, wrapped in gray. It was the kind of morning that should have felt peaceful, but inside I felt anything but. It was strange how calm I looked in the mirror. Everything was so normal. I was the same. I wasn't the kind of person who would be fooled by paranoia. I didn't believe in fate or coincidences. The voice had been nothing but an echo, a glitch in my mind. But that pit in my stomach never went away. The closer I got to the highway, the heavier it felt. I told myself, it's fine, I could handle this, I was fine. And then it came, the moment. That moment when everything suddenly shifts, and you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that something is wrong. You just don't know how wrong. The headlights. The blinding headlights cutting through the mist like knives, appearing out of nowhere. Too fast, too close. I didn't even see the car until it was almost on top of me, the screeching of tires filling the air, louder than anything I'd ever heard. I panicked. My foot slammed down on the brakes. But it wasn't enough. The impact hit before I could even register it. There's a strange kind of silence after a crash, you know? A thick, suffocating silence that fills your ears, makes your head spin. The world feels unreal, like you've slipped out of your body and are watching it from some far-off place. That's what it was like for me. Everything was still. Everything was wrong. I could feel the pain before I even fully woke up, the sharp throb in my head, the tightness in my chest. The world around me was broken. Glass scattered on the floor, the car twisted like some mangled piece of metal. I couldn't move, couldn't think. The only thing that kept running through my mind was, this can't be real. This can't be happening. But it was. It was happening. I fumbled for my phone. My hands were slick with sweat, my vision hazy, but somehow I managed to unlock it. The screen flashed in my hands, a dull glow in the dark interior of the car. I didn't even need to check the number. I knew. I just knew. I pressed the phone to my ear, still panting, still dazed. The line clicked, and that voice, my voice, came through. Softer this time, like it was almost sorry. You didn't listen. The words were enough to send a fresh wave of nausea crashing through me. It had been right. It had been right all along. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone away, run, do something, anything. But I couldn't move. My body was frozen, the realization crashing into me like the wreck that had just destroyed my car. The voice on the other end, my voice, was calm now, like it had been waiting for this moment, waiting for me to finally realize. Now it's too late. And in that moment I realized the terrible truth. There was no escaping it. The crash, the voice, the warning. It was all part of the same thing. Part of something I couldn't understand, something I'd ignored. And now it was too late. I dropped the phone as the sirens grew louder, the world around me spinning. But even as the emergency lights flashed in through the windows, even as I felt the world slip away, I couldn't shake the words. Too late. The truth. It had always been there. I just refused to see it. Now, there was nothing left but the silence. I can't shake the feeling. It's like an itch deep in my mind, one that I can't scratch no matter how hard I try. The call, the voice, it never leaves me. It clings to the back of my skull, a constant, suffocating reminder of the mistake I made. And now, as I sit here, trapped in the wreckage of my own foolishness, I realize just how much I've ignored. Everything was supposed to be fine. It was fine. I was going to work, doing my usual routine like I always did. I was fine, right? But that's what makes this so much worse, that I didn't listen, that I couldn't listen. I remember the crash as though it happened in slow motion. The blinding headlights, the screech of tires, the moment I slammed my foot on the brake, but it was already too late. The car, a blur, racing toward me, and then the sickening thud of impact. The air was filled with an overwhelming sound, the screech of metal on metal, the shattering of glass, the violent jolt of my body as it was thrown against the seatbelt. And then, silence. For a few seconds, everything was just quiet. Too quiet. The air, thick with the smell of burning rubber and gasoline, clung to my lungs, making it hard to breathe. The world around me seemed to stretch out in slow motion, like I wasn't even a part of it anymore. My vision was blurred, my head ached with a dull throb, but I could still hear my heartbeat, faint and irregular, like the drum of a war that had already begun. I opened my eyes slowly, trying to shake off the haze, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My car, it was a mangled mess. The hood was bent, the windows shattered. The dashboard had crumpled like paper. I was still alive, somehow, but I felt like I wasn't. I reached for the door, but my hands were shaking too violently. The weight of what had just happened, the fact that I was still here, still breathing, was almost too much to bear. I could feel the blood rushing in my ears, but there was something else. Something cold gnawing at me from the inside. I should have listened. I didn't even hear the sirens at first. The world was too loud in my head. But as the noise began to cut through, I felt the panic creep up. I wasn't safe. I wasn't safe. My mind raced back to the voice. That horrible, twisted version of myself. The one that had warned me. The one I didn't listen to. Change your path. Don't take the highway tomorrow. It's coming. Those words, I should have listened. I should have listened, but I didn't. I thought I could outrun it, outrun myself. And now it was too late. I could hear footsteps approaching, the rush of people in the distance. My vision swam as I struggled to move, to push myself out of the car, but the pain in my chest was overwhelming. I couldn't breathe. My legs felt like jelly, and I collapsed onto the wet pavement. The cool rain felt sharp on my skin, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Everything was spinning. I reached for my phone. It buzzed in my pocket, vibrating urgently as if it knew what I needed to do. But I already knew what I had done. I fumbled for it, my hands slipping in the rain, but I managed to pull it out. My vision blurred as I looked at the screen. Another unknown number. I didn't even need to check to know who it was. I already knew. I answered it, breathless, panicked, heart hammering in my chest. "Hello?" My voice cracked, barely above a whisper, but the voice that came through was clear, sharp, familiar, my voice. "Emma," it said, and I felt the words echo through me. It wasn't my voice anymore, not the one I recognized. This one was different, colder, harder. "You didn't listen." The voice was calm, almost pitying, like it had seen this happen before. "Now it's too late." My heart clenched in my chest. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone away, to forget everything, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed. Too late, that was all I could hear now, repeating over and over again in my head, drowning out the sound of the sirens, the voices around me. You knew, you warned me," I whispered, my words barely escaping, the panic rising in my throat like bile. You were me. I was you. Yes. The voice was as cold as ice, like a distant echo from somewhere beyond my reach. I tried to stop you, Emma. I tried to save you. But you ignored me. You always ignore me. I felt my breath catch, a sob rising in my chest. This wasn't just a warning, it was me. It was my future self, trying to save me from the inevitable. But now, there was nothing I could do. I had ignored it, ignored the voice, ignored the warning, and now I was here, trapped in the wreckage. The future I had been warned about was already unfolding. It had already happened. You need to warn him, the voice continued, its tone suddenly sharp again. There was urgency in it now, as if something else had changed. Warn who? I whispered, my voice broken, my body trembling uncontrollably. Who are you talking about? But before I could ask another question, the line went dead. The phone fell from my hand, clattering against the pavement, and I felt myself slipping, the world around me dissolving into darkness. I could hear the sirens growing louder now, the paramedics rushing toward me, but none of it seemed real. None of it made sense. I had thought I was in control. I thought I could ignore the warnings, but I had been wrong. And now, as the darkness took me, I understood. The future wasn't something I could outrun. It wasn't something I could avoid. It was already in motion, and I was just a piece of it, caught in the cycle, unable to escape. And then, just before everything went completely black, the phone buzzed again. I didn't need to answer this time. I already knew. The voice had moved on. It was already trying to save someone else. I don't know when I started to come back to my senses. It's like waking up from a nightmare, only to find yourself still trapped inside it. My mind couldn't quite catch up with my body. The world was too bright, too loud, too real. I was drowning in the weight of what had happened, what hadn't happened. And I couldn't understand why I was still here. How I was still here. I blinked a few times, trying to clear the haze from my vision, but nothing made sense. The hospital lights were so harsh, they burned my eyes. My head throbbed as if it had been cracked open, the pain spreading from my temples down into my neck. I felt weak, so incredibly weak, and yet something was still hanging over me. Something was wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't real, that I wasn't supposed to be here. A soft voice cut through my disorientation. "Emma, can you hear me?" I turned my head slowly, the effort too much, but I needed to see who was speaking. The woman, standing at the edge of my bed, she looked familiar, but not in a way I could place. Her face was kind, gentle, but there was something in her eyes, something knowing. I couldn't figure out why, but it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost, my ghost. "Who are you?" I managed to croak, my throat dry and cracked. She smiled, but it was a sad, aching kind of smile, the kind you give someone when you're trying not to hurt them with the truth. Her eyes shimmered with a deep, unfathomable sorrow. "It's me, Emma. It's you." I felt my breath catch in my chest. My mind scrambled, trying to put pieces together, but it couldn't make sense of what she was saying. "What do you mean?" I whispered, trying to sit up, but my body wasn't cooperating. I was too weak, too drained. "I don't understand." The woman stepped closer, her hand gently reaching for mine, and when our fingers touched, something inside me jolted. A recognition, something that should have been obvious but hadn't clicked yet. Her grip was too familiar, too comfortable. It was me, but it wasn't. And suddenly I understood. My pulse raced and I gasped, the truth crashing into me like a tidal wave. You're me. You're me from the future." She nodded slowly, her eyes filling with something like regret. "I'm you, yes. The version of you that lived through what you didn't. The version of you that tried to warn you and failed. I stared at her, feeling the floor beneath me drop out. No, that's not possible. How? How could this be real? This isn't real. She closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering herself, and when she opened them again, her expression was filled with pain, like she was holding something back, something much too heavy for her to bear. It's real. You don't remember me, but I've seen everything. I've lived it all. The crash, the phone calls, the warnings. I came back to try to save you, to save us. But you didn't listen. You didn't understand. I felt like the room was closing in on me. My heart was pounding in my chest, my throat tight with panic. The truth was suffocating. The weight of it was unbearable. I don't remember anything. The crash, the phone calls. What happened? Why didn't I listen? She squeezed my hand tighter, her eyes never leaving mine. You didn't believe me. You thought it was all in your head, some twisted prank, some glitch. But it wasn't. It was me, you. I tried to warn you, Emma. I tried to save you. You were supposed to die in that crash. I was supposed to die. I couldn't breathe. My mind spun, a whirlwind of thoughts colliding. The accident, the voice, the warnings I ignored, the twisted version of myself who kept calling, who kept telling me to change my path. I did ignore it. I thought it was just a cruel joke, a figment of my imagination, something that didn't belong in my life. But now, sitting here, staring at the woman who was me, the same eyes, the same voice, I understood. I understood too late. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe any of it, I whispered, my voice breaking. I wanted to cry, but I didn't have the strength. Why didn't you save us before? Why didn't you stop it? She lowered her head, her fingers brushing over her eyes as though trying to hold back tears. I didn't understand. I didn't understand what was happening, what could happen. I thought I had time. I thought I could fix it, change it, but it was already too late. I was too late. I felt a strange coldness settle over me as the reality of it all hit. It wasn't just the crash I'd survived, it was a warning. A warning I should have listened to. But more than that, it was the understanding that the future wasn't fixed, wasn't carved in stone. It wasn't about fate, it was about choices. Our choices. She looked at me, her expression softening, almost as if she was trying to hold on to something that was slipping away. But now, Emma, you have a chance to change everything. You can make it right, you can choose differently. Her words echoed in my ears, but I couldn't process them. How could I change it? How could I undo the damage I'd already caused? How could I go back to before, when everything was still ahead of me? You need to listen this time, she whispered, the urgency in her voice palpable. You need to make a different choice, or the future we've just escaped will catch up with you again, and next time, you won't survive it. I felt the weight of her words in my chest. The truth settled heavily, like an anchor that would keep me tethered to the future if I didn't make the right choice. But how? How could I ever truly know what the right choice was? She stepped back, her gaze never leaving mine. You were supposed to die, Emma. But now you can live. The room was so still, so quiet. I felt the weight of time pressing against me, pressing me into a corner I couldn't escape. I wasn't just sitting in a hospital room anymore. I was standing at the edge of a choice that would alter everything. Every decision I'd made until this point had led me here, and I could either let it destroy me, or I could choose differently. But the truth was, I didn't know how. How could I? How could anyone? The future wasn't just ahead of me. It was a twisted loop, and I had been running in circles. I glanced at her one last time, my mind filled with confusion and fear. The woman, me, watched me with understanding, as if she knew what I was about to face. I was still caught in the cycle, but I had one chance to break free. The future was no longer just a series of events. It was a twisted, tangled web, and I was standing at the heart of it, holding the threads. It was up to me to choose, and I had to choose right. Thank you for venturing into the shadows with me here at Frightful Whispers. Remember, the darkness holds secrets, but also whispers truths to those who dare to listen. If tonight's tale sent shivers down your spine, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps keep the fire of fright alive. Rest easy, but keep one eye open, for the night is never truly still. Until we meet again, stay vigilant, stay curious, and let the whispers guide you.